Hello, and so we come to the end of the week. We're getting really close now, and this is First John 5:18. Can you translate it? Here's Johnny. We know that everyone who has been born and stays born from God does not sin, does not continue sinning. But the one who has been born from God keeps himself, and the evil one does not touch him. So this is very similar to First John 3:9. The one who is born of God is not able to continue sinning. God's seed remains in them. They're not able to sin, etc. Um, we know that everyone who has been born, this is an interesting construction. Actually, let me just go on to the translation. We know that everyone who has been born from God. Now, this is, as we'll find out on the next slide, a perfect tense. It's reduplicated. The ending has been shoved right on the stem because this is ganao. So the alpha has been lengthened when you shove that. This is a participle ending right on it. Men are passive participles when the men is before the ending. So been comes from the passiveness, um, has from the perfectness. It's adjectival because it has the article. It's substantive because we have to come up with one. This is all the having been born one, or every the having been born one. Anyway, we play with it, we put it in our Greek computer, and it comes out everyone who has been born. Because it's perfect, the connotation is born and continued to be born, um, remained born, as it were. We know that everyone who has been born from God is not sinning, does not sin. Now, this doesn't mean ever. It doesn't mean never, because First John 2:1 says if we do sin, we have an advocate. So it's talking about, it's a present tense here. It's talking about sin will not typify. The one who's been born of God will not be typified by sin. Sin will not be characteristic of that person. So, of course, John doesn't have in mind mistakes or things like that. He's talking about intentional, conscious wrongdoing. Um, but the one who's been born from God, what's the difference between these two? They're both participles, both have the article, they're both therefore adjectival, they're both substantive, they're both passive, actually. But this one, theta epsilon, clues me in that this is a aorist passive participle. So whereas this had the connotation of everyone who has been born and remains born, this one simply says the one who has been born at some point from God keeps himself. This is a present, so is keeping himself. Um, Now, there is a textual issue here. I didn't look it up, but I guarantee you that if I did look it up, okay, I'll look it up. Okay, so the choice is as I thought it was. Some manuscripts read heauton, keeps himself, and some manuscripts read auton, keeps him. Now, what I didn't realize, see, I just assumed this is talking about the believer, and it's just a variation. We know that everyone who's been born of God does not sin, but the one who's been born of God keeps himself, and the evil one doesn't touch him. Um, However, I guess Metzger interprets this to be about Jesus, I think. But the one who has been born from God keeps him. Let me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So yes, so Metzger interpreted this to be, but the one who has been born of God, namely Jesus, keeps him, namely everyone who's been born of God. I'm not sure I actually agree with them. I think I go with this as the right text, but again, as John putting auton instead of heauton. I've already argued that before. The King James, based on the Textus Receptus, goes with heauton because that's better grammar. So I think I agree with the interpretation of the King James, but with the text that Metzger has chosen, with both of these being about the believer and this not being about Jesus. Now, Metzger says that normally this is how John speaks of the believer. So they opted to say this is about Jesus. I don't know. I think my inclination is to say we know that everybody who's been born of God does not sin, but the one who's been born of God keeps himself, and the evil one does not touch him, as opposed to Jesus, the one who's been born of God, keeps him, the believer, so that the evil one cannot touch him. I'll let you decide what you think it is. But the translation, um, again, this is either referring to the believer again or to Jesus. But the one who's been born from God keeps himself or him, and the evil one, this is substantive with a normal adjective, the evil one, does not touch him. Okay, grammar. So oida is perfect in form, present in meaning, but it is, we'll go with perfect active indicative, first plural from oida. The perfect is, that's what they say. And then this one here, I've already kind of parsed it on the fly. It's perfect because it's reduplicated, perfect middle or passive because it's shoved right on the stem ending. Stem is shoved right on the ending is shoved right on the stem. The men are passive participles. Os is nominative masculine singular. So it's perfect passive participle, nominative masculine singular from ganao. Okay. This, as I mentioned, is an aorist passive participle, nominative masculine singular from ganao. And that ending you just kind of have to memorize. There is a song for all the nominative participles. It goes lu, on, u, sa, on. That's the present active nominative. Omenos, omene, omenon. That's the perfect middle, present middle and passive. Lu, sas, sa, sa, san. That's aorist active, nominative. Samenos, samene, samenon. That's the middle aorist. Luthes. There it is, aorist passive participle, nominative masculine singular. Somewhere online I have that song if you want to find it. And the evil one does not touch him. So hoptomai, oh my, this is deponent. So that's a middle or passive ending, but we're going to say deponent. It's present, hoptomai. So it's present deponent indicative third singular from hoptomai. Okay, which brings us to the pronunciation. Oidemen hoti, pas ho, gegenemenos, ek tu theu, uk hamartane, al ho genethes, ek tu theu, te re, auton, kai, ho, poneros, uk, haptatai, autu. Okay, and now at a slightly faster rate. Oidemen hoti pas ho gegenemenos ek tu theu, uk hamartane. Al ho genethes ek tu theu, te re auton. Kai ho poneros uk haptatai autu. Well, that's a Friday. 3 more verses, and we will have finished our great venture in 1 John.